Welcome to Microdose Psychedelic Insights, powered by the Conscious Fund. This is the Psyfi series, discovering the cutting-edge science and research in psychedelic medicine.
Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of the Psyfi podcast, where we talk to leading industry experts, clinicians, and researchers to unravel the mystery that is psychedelic science. And I have to say, today's episode is one I've been looking forward to for a while. We're speaking to Arnott, CEO of Andromeda Entertainment, and one of the creators of something that's called the Technodelic. I love his the way that he combines technology and psychedelic medicine is really novel and unique, and I think we're going to have a really great conversation. And I'm really excited for it. Something I've been looking forward to for quite a long time. So, Robin, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to the conversation myself.
Awesome. So for those of us that are listening that might not know you as well and what you're up to, if you could just share a little bit about that and yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So years and years ago, I started working on a project called SoundSelf. It actually came to me in a psychedelic journey. And I had my first experience of oneness, which was a little bit of a world shaker. And I realized after that experience, because I was a game developer, I realized that I had the tools as a game maker to create an experience, which is a feedback loop. A game is a feedback loop, to create a feedback loop that could bring a person into an experience of divinity, an experience of oneness, and that it was actually just a matter of disengaging certain activities in the mind, and that a game design could do that. That was the insight I had, and it took a long time to develop because I don't think anybody's made a game to that end before. It took a lot of trial and error, and it was a very intuitive design process. But years and years later, we released the game as a virtual reality experience for tethered VR, and now we're developing it specifically for psychedelic therapy so that psychedelic therapists can use this experience to give people their first taste of oneness, their first taste of non-dual consciousness. So people who are anxious to dive into a roller coaster, which is psychedelics, and there's no getting off until the end of the journey, you could give them this technological taste, which actually does. I imagine, if your listeners are a little like, really, a piece of technology can induce an altered state like that. Like I totally respect and understand the what would the word there be? Not cynicism, but the doubt, the
skepticism.
The skepticism, yeah. And I'm sometimes a little skeptical myself, even though I've been making it for years, because my experiences with psychedelics have been so powerful. But then time after time, I see people go into it, and I have experiences myself with it. And it is shattering my own, even as its creator, it's shattering my own beliefs about what it is that can provoke and produce these sorts of experiences and what it is that cannot. And technology does not fit into the category of what cannot. This is what we're seeing, is that we can use technology. We can use game design to provoke altered states.
Yeah, that's really, really fascinating. I remember reading some early studies where they were using lights. What was it called? I forget the term now, in rats, to elicit certain neurotransmitters or physiological responses, photoreception or something of the sort, and it was really groundbreaking when it came out, that they were able to modulate brain chemistry with just light and sound. And essentially that's what you're doing. And that's really incredible.
Yeah, people have been doing this for a long time. Any of these individual technologies for brainwave entrainment. So, there's strobing lights, there's binaural beats, there's music.
Right.
Tying that all together with an interactive piece for SoundSelf, it uses the voice and the breath. So as you're in the experience, you're vocalizing, you're using your voice, you're using your breath, and the whole system is responding to your voice and your breath. So we have all these technologies that have been used for a long time to provoke altered states. And we're tying them together with an interactive feedback loop that continuously brings the user's attention back to their body, back to their body, back to their body.
That's really fascinating. And it sounds like this project started to sort of create a psychedelic experience in lieu of actually taking psychedelics, but now it's sort of headed to both that and integrating these fascinating tools into the psychedelic therapy model. And I think that's really interesting. So when did that shift happen or addition happen, and what are you excited about as far as all that?
Well, I've been tracking the new psychedelic renaissance since, for the last 5 to 8 years or so. And it's so very meaningful to me. It's been part of the inspiration for this project from the get-go. And to me, this is an opportunity to bring this experience into a domain where it can really provide meaningful work for people. And meaningful work, so SoundSelf, you can buy it on the Steam store and you can play it projected on the wall or in virtual reality or whatever. You can have a really positive experience with it. Our Steam reviews are filled with people who are like, I've tried meditating before and it's never worked for me, and this just brought me somewhere that I've heard about. Or people even, this one's kind of funny, but I bring it up because it's relevant. It's interesting. Is I've had one review of somebody saying that they play SoundSelf and then they play competitive shooters, and it just radically increases their precision, their accuracy, their flow. It just makes them better gamers. So that's meaningful to me, and that's great. But we're onto something here that's really, really powerful, and by far the most powerful experiences we've seen with it come when you have a facilitator present to bring you into it, to help you out of it. You have somebody present with you to kind of help set expectations. And so you have a ceremonial setting. So maybe you're drinking tea or something before it. All of these things, set and setting, presence, having a sitter, these things that are valuable to psychedelic settings are actually also incredibly valuable for this experience and amplifying it. I'll also adding medicines like cacao or marijuana or psilocybin can also radically amplify the experience. So it just fits really neatly into the psychedelic therapy model. It happens to address an issue that psychedelic therapists are having, which is overcoming people's initial anxiety around having those experiences, especially given the fear tactics that many of us grew up with around these medicines. So SoundSelf can be, so to me, it's really exciting. I can use this tool and I can offer this tool as a way to help scale this medicine, which is tremendously meaningful to me.
Yeah, no, that's really incredible. And I'm sure you'll be able to gather a lot of important data through the wearables. And I don't know if that's something you're looking to do, but it's something you could do, is it? Something you're aiming to do? Okay.
Yeah, it's something we're aiming to do. We don't currently integrate any technology for capturing that data yet, but the next iteration of the software would certainly capture data with users' consent, of course.
Sure. What would you do with that data? Would it be to optimize user experience?
Yes, it would be to optimize user experience. Right now, the software runs on a heuristic. It can detect approximately how relaxed you are just by the rhythm of your voice and your breath. So we would use that data in order to produce a more fine-tuned experience for the user, and also in order to help hone the design so that it's using elements that are provoking these responses for people, and it's not using elements that are not. And it also helped. This is a new field of design, and being able to get more information on this field of design is going to help it grow.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. This is more of a basic question, but how did you get interested in psychedelic medicine, and what got you, so passionate about this field of study?
Yeah, to me, it started, as for so many people, as novelty. It's just like, oh, this is, trippy and interesting, and could be like, yeah, sure. I'll. So my first psychedelic experiences were on psilocybin when I was in my early 20s, maybe late teens, and had a really powerful experiences with them. I mean, I'll say novel. They didn't go deep. They were just like fun. It's just like, wow, everything's colorful and alive, and so then I went to Amsterdam with some friends of mine, and I thought I'd been around the block a few times, and so I just took a massive dose, and that was weird, but it absolutely shook my foundational reality. And it wasn't a safe setting. We were out in the town, walking around, going to different bars, sitting places.
Wow.
But it still shook my reality and was ultimately a very powerful, positive experience. And that began a deeper relationship with these medicines for me as I recognized their power. And as I developed in my own spirituality, my own spiritual practices and my own spiritual interests really began from psychedelics. And I think that's true of a lot of people.
Yeah, no, that's really fascinating. I'm glad that you shared your first experiences, with psychedelics, because I always like to ask my guests that, and some people are more candid than others. So I appreciate you just, going into it, because I think that's so, interesting, but also important, because it gives you a perspective that you otherwise wouldn't have in creating what you do. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah, my work has been very informed by psychedelics. I believe, I'm going to drop that word believe. I witness, and I think, and I trust amongst the people in my life who also witness this. I trust them more. I trust their humility more. I witness there's an intelligence to these plants and fungi that humans haven't cornered the market on intelligence. We've just cornered the market on a certain type of intelligence that we know how to recognize, and language and so on. And language is totally badass. But there are, of course, other kinds of intelligence, and they do communicate with us. They communicate with us when we ingest these things. And so, to me, having a relationship with psilocybin, a relationship with ayahuasca, having conversations with these beings, many of my best ideas and my best what's brought me back onto the straight and narrow path have been these conversations with these humbling conversations with these intelligences. And SoundSelf is not an idea, like I didn't sit and come up with it, it was given to me by the medicine.
Wow, that's really fascinating. What medicine in particular?
That was LSD.
Yeah, wow. Really, really cool. Very, very cool. What are you most excited about moving forward as far as what you want to see Soundscape and Andromeda Entertainment go into in the future, and then just the industry overall as far as its integration with new cutting edge technology? I know AI is a big part of it, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sure.
So it SoundSelf. I know there are other experiences called Soundscape. That's fine. For anybody wondering, it's SOUNDSELF. So it's like sound, like you might hear and produce coming back to yourself. The things I'm most excited about are, I'm really excited about the growth of psychedelic medicine, the new Psychedelic Renaissance. I think that, our civilization needs a lot of healing, and I think psychedelic medicines have a lot of the healing that so many of us need. And I just imagine a generation of intelligent, safe use of psychedelics is going to have a massive and permanent impact on our civilizational values. So anything that we can do to serve that growth and to help calm the resistance to that growth is really meaningful work to me. So as far as my work in my company, it's about taking this one tool that has been developed, that I've developed and developed with others, really fine-tuning it for psychedelic therapy, redeveloping it for psychedelic therapy, and then also bringing other experiences. So there are other people who are developing interactive experiences, and to me, interactivity is an absolutely a key component. Psychedelic medicines are themselves interactive, and I'm just not interested in. There's a lot of great psychedelic music and psychedelic art and so on, but having the interactive component really brings your body and yourself into the experience in a way that makes it much more profound. So, but how do you distribute these? How do you get people using them and so on? These are complex challenges that my company is working to solve.
Yeah, no, that's something that I was just thinking about as far as accessibility goes. How is this something that's going to be scaled, and is it just going to be something that will be, like most things, fairly expensive at first, and hopefully will trickle down to the general public over time, or how does that work?
For what we're doing, it's actually not that expensive. So when we developed SoundSelf initially, it was virtual reality, and right now it's only tethered virtual reality. So unfortunately, it doesn't run on the Quest yet, although it will. But the psychedelic product we realized it's just a lot to ask people who aren't necessarily technologically savvy to get set up with a virtual reality computer. It's a lot of cables, there's a lot of fail points. Virtual reality is still in its infancy. And so we decided to start using more robust technologies that don't require as expensive a computer. So for SoundSelf, we call it SoundSelf Pro. It's the psychedelic therapy version of it. We don't use virtual reality anymore. We use light and sound. So we use what's called AVS glasses, strobe glasses, LED glasses.
Wow.
They plug directly into your computer, and SoundSelf takes control of them and controls how bright they are, how fast the strobe rate is, the color, etc. And then we're also using haptics. So that can be a vibroacoustic table. Right now, vibroacoustic tables tend to be pretty expensive, but there are companies making less expensive ones. That can be vibroacoustic vests, which are becoming more common, like the Wooger. So we've got this whole setup now it's actually not that expensive. The hardware runs you, a few $100, a few $100 more if you want haptics, which are great. The software is inexpensive. It's a $30 a month subscription after the first month for SoundSelf Pro. And it all just integrates really elegantly and easily. So I imagine it will get cheaper over time a little bit. Like we're already seeing the sound tables are getting less expensive. The LED glasses, I don't think are going to be changing price very much, but it's certainly less expensive than virtual reality.
Sure. So if I understand correctly, you have, several products or several digital offerings, and some can be used in conjunction with psychedelic medicine, and some are meant to recreate psychedelic experiences. Do I have that right, or is it?
We only have one product designed for psychedelic therapy right now. So my company is we started as a games publisher, and so we have with a focus on virtual reality was our focus, and then I'm developing the part of the business which is focused on psychedelic therapy and how can we create tools for psychedelic therapy, and we're really focusing on SoundSelf for the time being, for training psychedelic therapists, for helping psychedelic therapists introduce new clients to psychedelic therapy work, and also to use it in the integration process. And once we've got that nailed down, I definitely expect we'll be adding more products so that you have a whole suite of psychedelic therapy tools and therapeutic tools in general, interactive tools that a therapist could use, or even that, if you're an avid mind explorer at home, that you could use. You wouldn't necessarily need to go to a therapist, although that's a really ideal environment. And I think that's
and again, when you're talking about these tools at home, for instance, are you talking about people consume psychedelics at home and then they use these tools, or there's not necessarily a need for that, or it's compatible with both? You wouldn't need it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. We're producing some of the same. You play SoundSelf with the glasses, and what we're seeing is people are having very similar brainwave responses to psychedelics.
So you're doing brain imaging studies.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool.
It's really cool.
Wow, that's really amazing. I love as a clinical biologist myself, I love the medicalized clinical approach that psychedelic medicine is taking. Cannabis didn't do that. Cannabinoid drugs were not really successful in that, regard as far as IP and derivatives and things goes. And, the 60s and 70s was a total bust with Sandoz just sending LSD to everybody. So I'm really grateful that we're doing things right this time. And, people like you are going through the trouble of clinical trials and psychedelic science and research, because that's so important for us to get to where we need to get to.
Yeah, we don't want to make the same mistakes that our forebears made in the 60s.
Okay, cool. So I'm really interested to know, what is your team like? Like, how did you put a team together, that can match that very ambitious vision you have? And, I'm sure you love working with them, and you've curated an amazing one. So if you want to say a few words about them, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we have a really great team. It takes all different types, and you got to complement each other. I'm a fan of the wealth dynamics chart in terms of putting a team together. For those of you who don't know it, it's basically a personality wheel. So, you need the creative spark type, and that's very much me, in order to create the product and drive it. You need someone representing it, but you also need someone who's just obsessed with the numbers. Otherwise, you don't have a business.
Right.
Someone who can talk to people. Otherwise, you don't have a business. You need somebody who can make deals and who can negotiate. And otherwise, you don't have a business. So I'll speak of my other co-founders at Andromeda. I have John McClellan, who's a jack of all trades, financials, and he's really the bones of the company. So once he and I started to work together, it really freed me to be more creative because he could just take care of all the company stuff, and he loves doing that. We have Heather Ray, who I've been working with for years and years and years, and she's a real people person. She represents the brand really well. She represents us at events very well. She makes friends easily and gets excited about what we're doing. We have Lyle Maxon, who's just a massive visionary of partnerships. So if anybody listening to this has reached out to us to make a partnership with us, you're probably talking to Lyle. He's an alien. He's he's an alien light being, optimist, energy being, very powerful.
Wow.
Yeah, and everybody has a relationship with psychedelic medicines, and everybody has a relationship with these let's say profound states of consciousness, and sees the purpose of what we're doing. But we also have one of my developers is Equitas Luck, and he was the lead designer on Desktop Dungeons, and now he's really taking a leading role on further developing SoundSelf. So, which means the product has everybody working on the product has game design experience. We know how to make a game something fun, engaging. So it's not, I think one of the big issues with digital therapeutics right now is that they're kind of they're not necessarily designed by people who know fun in their bones. It's important. If we want something to stick, if we want people to want to do it and engage, it has to be engaging.
That's very true, man. I've been hearing a lot about digital therapeutics, and it just sounds like they're trying to replace the Epic system that already exists for clinicians, and it's very dry. And I think it's so cool that you're taking an approach that involves fun, like
it has to. It has to. Otherwise, it's just not going to stick. Otherwise, it's not going to be a real viable. One of the big issues with pharmaceutical drugs, other than all the other big issues with pharmaceutical drugs, but one of the big issues is people don't take their prescriptions.
Yeah.
A doctor will, yeah. And why don't people take them? Because it's boring and unpleasant. Nobody wants to. And I think we intuit somewhere in our body, like, this doesn't feel right. But you get people, people go have a massage. Right. It feels good, and because you can feel how it's good for you in your body. It's like there's a direct one-to-one. You can feel it. You can feel how it's doing. It's the same thing with psychedelics. You go into an ayahuasca journey, and you're like, maybe this sucks right now, but I can feel how it's good for me. And I come out of the experience a changed person. Hopefully, if you took it right, and that experience is meaningful to me. There's something meaningful about it. So. Like digital experiences that don't have stickiness or fun are going to be like drugs that you have to open your computer in order to take them. It's just going to add a step. It's not going to remove a step. So,
oh wow! If there was ever a really profound quote in sci-fi that I've recorded, that was pretty awesome. Just because I was thinking about the nature of psychedelic drugs versus other, let's call them maybe hedonistic drugs, just for lack of a better term. And the thing with psychedelics versus heroin or methamphetamine or something is you don't know what to expect with psychedelic medicine. You're going into the unknown every time, and that's
what sucks about them.
That's what sucks about them, and that's how you grow with them,
That's
because
true.
there's that discomfort, and growth happens in discomfort.
Oh man,
I'm
going to go on the record and say psychedelics suck. Psychedelics blow. Sometimes they suck.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's part of the relationship.
That's true. Sometimes there are very hard experiences. You don't try and recreate that in your games, though, right?
No. And in fact, I mean, this is one of the benefits of technology is that like the moment it starts to kind of suck for you, something in your brain turns on, and you're like, I'm wearing glasses and headphones, and like it's like the eject switch. So you'll go deeper and deeper and deeper as long as you feel comfortable and surrendered into opening up more and more. And that's part of our work as developers, is to make you feel more and more comfortable, have the dynamic music system be really elegant and nice as best as we can. There was actually a part of the development of SoundSelf where we were just like, let's just try making it really intense. That was, it worked, but
it worked.
but it was, we were actually, it was triggering some trauma responses in people.
Wow.
It doesn't do that anymore. But that's, I think that speaks to the power of the feedback loop. It is like, you're not going to go into it if you start to have let's say you start to have a really negative response, and you absolutely have a choice in that moment. You can stay in there, or you can take off the headset. And so that gives people a feeling of control, which makes it, you're just not going to have those bad experiences in SoundSelf as it is now, which makes it great as a first time experience. Like I've never had a unitive state of consciousness. I've never had an altered state of consciousness, and I'm scared of what that's like. And I've heard all these horror stories. It's like, okay, you can have your first taste of that, and it's not going to suck. We promise it's not going to suck.
Okay, fair enough. Because that got me thinking that it probably couldn't be a replacement for psychedelics if it never got tough. Only because it seems that popular opinion seems to be that a lot of the hard work is done in those tough moments that psychedelics kind of produce.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I don't think, I disagree with some other people in the field in this. I don't think we're going to be replacing these plant medicines, and I don't think we should be trying to replace the plant medicines. Although it can in some ways, like we will give you an altered state of consciousness, and we will, I think it adds another class to the suite of psychedelic tools available, of psychedelics, I'll say, not even psychedelic tools, of psychedelics, digidelics, or let's see, the word we use is technodelics.
Digidelics, you're good with words, huh?
Yeah. Well, I can't take credit for that one. But technodelics are a class of psychedelic. So, but that doesn't mean, the development of let's say 2CB hasn't replaced psilocybin or ayahuasca or any of these others.
So that's really cool. I'm curious, the scientific team that you worked with to recreate psychedelic states using technology. What was that process like? What is your scientific team like? And just tell me a little bit more about that. Let's nerd out a little bit on that.
Great. Cool. Yeah, I'd love to. We've done 2 studies now. The first was with Dr. Jeff Tarrant, who's a specialist in altered states of consciousness and studying meditation with EEG. And we did an EEG study with him. These are all pretty small studies at this point, but we were seeing many of exactly the signatures of psychedelic experiences in people's brains, and consistently so. So I'm talking about an increase of gamma, which is, for those of your listeners who don't understand that, that's huge. That's, you only see these kind of bursts of gamma when a person is deep in meditation after years of study of meditation or in psychedelic states. So we're seeing that. Wow. We're seeing these bursts of gamma. We're seeing that was the thing that blew me away when I saw it. I was not expecting to see increased, I was expecting to see, maybe a little decrease of activity in the default mode network, which we see. I was expecting to see maybe a decrease of high beta and an increase of alpha, but I was not expecting to see the gamma that we're seeing. So there's
wow.
Yeah.
And you saw this across patients, like wow. For how long were they wearing?
Short, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, not long. Wow. Yeah, and so then we have these subjective questionnaires that are the same subjective questionnaires that have been used for the psilocybin research.
Sure.
And we're seeing. Now, in the altered states of consciousness questionnaire breaks it down into a few different things. One of them is bliss, one of them is unity, a few things. SoundSelf's always been targeting unity. Let's give people unitive states of consciousness. And we're seeing unitive experiences on par with psilocybin after a 15-minute playthrough.
Wow. After 15 minutes, I wonder if that's even faster than it takes for a lot of people to metabolize psilocybin.
It's a lot faster.
Reach, the
It's
state.
a lot faster. Now, I'm going to hedge a little bit here because I don't want to step on psilocybin's toes. Psilocybin's my friend. There are things that psilocybin will do that this technology won't, You're not going to necessarily, I've heard of people talking to star beings and ancestors, so maybe it happens, but not as much regularity as with psilocybin.
Sure. Wow, that's super exciting, man. So you've given some really interesting talks at events that we've had in the past, like Psychedelic Capital. The technology panel was really fascinating last time. I encourage our listeners to go back and check that out if they haven't yet. And just tell me what advancements in technology as far as your sector of gaming and I guess primarily gaming and virtual reality and AR, VR, things of that nature. Most immediately, are you looking forward to incorporate into your products and offerings?
Virtual reality is great. I love virtual reality and I love what it can do. And some of the projects that we're looking on bringing into psychedelic therapy spaces are virtual reality. The technology is still not quite there yet, but it's coming, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing more virtual reality experiences developed for therapeutic ends and being used therapeutically. And there's plenty of research on this, for pain reductions, very, very simple one. You're having a procedure or something, you could use virtual reality instead of using a anesthetic. That's pretty great.
Wow.
Yeah. So
for local surgery, or?
I don't know the research well enough to tell you that.
That's really cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. So virtual reality is coming, and I'm a big believer in virtual reality. I'm not as fond of mixed reality or augmented reality for this work, because I think for this work, for therapeutic work, we really benefit from it being fully immersive. Excuse me. So there's virtual reality. I think haptics are really important. Once you can feel. So we do SoundSelf right now with SoundSelf Pro, the psychedelic version or the psychedelic therapeutic version. We do the LED glasses and a vibroacoustic bed or a vibroacoustic vest or something. Vibroacoustics add a lot to the experience. So you're feeling your voice in a different way. You're feeling the sound around you in a different way. It helps melt the senses, and it actually helps your body feel. It helps activate the vagus nerve. It helps your body feel safer. So I think vibration technology is, that's funny. I say vibration technology. It sounds, so kind of like light language and it sounds kind of woo, but I mean just speakers, relying on a speaker. It's good for you. For the same reason that you go to like a thumping club and you feel you're drawn to the bass,
Right.
You're drawn to the rhythm. Your body knows something that's bringing you there, and so there's ways that we can use that same technology therapeutically, just putting the vibrations through your body, and especially so with SoundSelf, having that vibration be connected to your voice. So you're actually feeling your voice move through your body, enhances this sense of intimacy and comfort, really, really produces a powerful healing effect. It's powerful. So I'm a big fan, obviously I'm a big fan of strobing lights for brainwave entrainment and for just, disabling the part of your mind that's trying to make sense of things and looking for the rational part of your mind, I guess you'd call it your executive functions.
Sure.
But being able to give that a break.
There's a part of the brain, I know I'll remember in just a little bit, but anyways, it lights up when we become aware of our own heartbeat. So it's really cool, only then, so it's really cool when technology like yours makes us more aware of our breath, or makes us more aware of our voice, and the texture of how it sounds, and just becoming more present actually activates and changes our physiology instantly, and that's so powerful.
And that brings me to biosensors in general. I think integrating biosensors into video games are going to really provoke a totally different design space for video games. But when you look therapeutically, being able to use this biodata not for quantifiable ends, like analyzing the data and seeing how you're doing, but for qualifiable ends, like playing your heartbeat back to you. Like Mikey Segal is a designer who's doing a lot of great work on this stuff. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but there's the people who are working in the space that I'm tracking, that I'm most fond of, and that I most want to work with, and that I most want to fund, are people who are using biosensors. Now, biosensors have a scalability issue, but that's just a problem to solve. It's not.
Biosensors
it's not. Yeah.
They have a scalability issue. It's just because of the cost.
and I think more importantly, they're weird. It's like, okay, so you have this biosensor. Let's say you have this heart rate monitor. Well, is your software going to respond to this one and this one and this one and this one and this one?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just going to respond to this one? And because these aren't necessarily very scaled technologies yet, like how are the drivers going to work with your computer? Is it going to be compatible with, your old version of Windows? Is it going to, it's just, there's so many technical hurdles in order to make it easy. It's like, yes, you can get it, and not too expensively, but in order for this stuff to really scale, we need a bridge, or we need something that's going to just make it easier for people. And I know a lot of people are working on solving this problem.
Wow, man, that's really fascinating. I, for one, look forward to the future of psychedelics and gaming and that intersection of technology and technodelics. Like, you coined the phrase, which I really, really love. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll direct your listeners to the Technodelic Manifesto, which you can just Google, and it'll come up.
Okay.
And it covers my thoughts on that. I'll ask you to imagine this future, and I don't think it's a future very far away. It's not even that crazy optimistic, but just imagine a future. You go into a tech spa. We'll have a better name for it than a tech spa. Maybe it's just a spa, right? You go into a spa, and some of the therapeutics that you get to experience there are, or maybe even all of the therapeutics that you get to experience there are, you're lying down on a table, listening to your heartbeat, watching some visuals that correspond to your heartbeat or something, which gets you into a relationship with your heart. You've got a vibroacoustic mat there and these lights so you can play SoundSelf, and it's playing back spoken affirmations from your loved ones that that the staff at this location has recorded for you when you first signed up for the service, so that you're lying there and you're vocalizing into the experience, and now you're hearing the spoken affirmations of your loved ones and spoken affirmations from yourself from the last time you were here. Okay, so there's that. And then maybe you lie down, you take a small dose of ketamine, and you've got a project that is creating music that dynamically is generated from your breath, and that's guiding you through a meditation there. And so you could have a whole suite of experiences that you could experience on your own, or with a lover as a date, or have as part of a therapeutic procedure. Excuse me, I mean procedure. That's such a cold word, but I mean a process. You can be using these in collaboration with a therapist or a coach or something. And this could be how you spend your Saturday afternoon. You come back feeling, like your soul's been massaged or something. And all of this is done with tech. But it's more heart-centered technology.
Heart-centered technology. That's an amazing phrase, and I love that. I love the consciousness and the mindfulness behind that. It sounds like the intention behind what you do and the passion behind it all. It comes from a really genuine place, and I think that's a really refreshing but also necessary characteristic for people that lead in this industry, to lead it in the right direction and in an ethical direction that can serve the most people in the best way. And I think that you and your team at Andromeda are doing just that. And so, what a great note, I suppose, to start to close the episode on. However, I know we could chat forever because you're just a very interesting person, Robin. I like to always give my guests the last word on my episodes. Just a message you like to share, or a story, or anything, just the mic is yours, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Sure. Well, I'll just share an invitation, which is if you want to start using these technologies, we're very, very active in our relationships with our clients in order to build this into the best community of users as possible and give people the best experience as possible. So it's a really great time to develop a relationship with us and develop a relationship with these technologies. So if you're interested in purchasing one of these systems, you're starting to use it, you could go to soundself.com/pro, or you could just reach out to us. The Heather at Enter Andromeda is my URL for the company as a whole, different for the product. If you email Heather at enterandromeda.com, she'll help you get set up with the product. And if you want to talk to me, you can email me at robin@enterandromeda.com. We're definitely looking for collaborations and other folks in the business to help distribute this technology into the places where it can do the best work it can. And also just want to offer blessings to everybody who's in this sector. It's such important work right now. And I see a brotherhood and sisterhood of people doing really powerful work in this space, and grateful for the opportunity to communicate with you all.
Oh, absolutely. And the pleasure is all mine. Like I said, this is an episode I've been really excited about. It was such a privilege and an honor to watch you at PsyCap, and the tech panel you did, honestly, is one of my favorite panels of all our PsyCaps in the year. Microdose has been Microdose, really, it was so fascinating. You really piqued my interest, and I'm glad we got to flesh out some of the topics even further in this episode of Psyfi here today. So thank you so much, Robin, for joining us, and I really can't wait for next time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
So everybody, that's another exciting episode of the Psyfi podcast, where we talk to leading industry clinicians, experts, and researchers to unravel the mystery that is psychedelic science. Today we had Robin Arnott, the CEO of Andromeda Entertainment, and I'm your host, Gaurav Dubey, the content editor over at Microdose Technodelic Insights. Our website is microdose.buzz, and at social media, Microdose HQ. And it would be really great for everyone to subscribe to our podcast, be it on YouTube, Stitcher, or iTunes, and leave us a review. That goes a really long way for visibility. If you could just leave a review and let us know what you think, we can have more great guests like Robin on and keep the show rolling. So thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining the Psyfi series, brought to you by Microdose and the Conscious Fund. Visit our website at www.microdose.buzz.